With Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk too, I've always said, well, certainly with this fight, that I've felt that it'll happen on December the 21st. But you're thinking, right, we're not a crazy amount away. Like, I mean, you don't miss time going. October be over, you're into November, and then boom, you're into December, you're into fight month. So there's not a crazy amount of time between now and then. And I was actually in the middle of doing a video yesterday before I had to go out, and I was asking the question, like, what is the deal with the undercard? I mean, have we heard any rumours, any kind of hearsay and on the grapevine? And no sooner did I start working on that, boom, we got the undercard announced. Now, a lot of people have been... So, you remember when these Saudi shows started? I mean, Fury versus Ngannou was the first one that had a lot of heavyweights on it, had a lot of names, but didn't necessarily have the most competitive fights in the world. But nevertheless, it still had names on it. Had David Adelaide versus Fabio Wadley, which on paper seemed like it should be a competitive fight. It was fairly one-sided in Fabio Wadley's favour. Then they did the Day of Reckoning, which was just... I mean, that card was something else. I mean, to have the level of fights you had on it, the names, it really was incredible. They kind of set a very big standard, and have we got to that standard again with some of these cards? No, but does that mean that it's bad? It's like you set the standard so high, if you go down a little bit, it's still vastly superior to what we were getting a couple of years prior. I mean, if you had seen a card like the one I'm going to talk about now, if you'd seen a card like Beterbiev Bivol, which is happening this weekend on the Zone, have a look there on screen. You can click the link that'll be in the comment section, be pinned in the comment section. If you want to go over there and watch it, be shown live on the Zone. We'll try and do a watch along for that. But anyway, as I was saying, if you look at the shows like the Beterbiev Bivol one, if you had come with that undercard, say 2021, 2022, people would be like, oh my god, what a card. That's incredible. I do have an issue with Eubank being the co-main event on that card, big issue. But aside from that, the card is very, very good. And this card right here, I mean, like, people, there's fights on here that I'm like, yes. So, BoxRec have it in their own order, and their order is never right because they don't have Fury and Usyk as the main event. They actually have Usyk versus Israel Madrimov as the top of the card, which it obviously won't be. It'll probably be co-main, but that's a 12-round fight at 154 pounds. I don't know will there be anything on the line in particular for that fight. You wouldn't know because I'm not 100% sure what Crawford's situation is. I'm pretty sure it'll just be a non-title fight, but nevertheless, it's a very, very good fight. Usyk dropped Virgil Ortiz a couple of times. A lot of people felt that he did enough to win that fight when he fought Virgil Ortiz back in August. He will go in there against Israel Madrimov, who obviously we know fought Terence Crawford, gave him his toughest fight in many years. First guy to bring him the distance since Victor Postal way back in 2016. So you're talking, over 8 years of not going the distance. He's the first guy to bring him the distance. And a lot of people felt, not myself personally, but a lot of people felt that actually Madrimov, he could have took it. So that's a really, really good fight. It's a really competitive fight. Both guys coming off losses that they probably would both feel should be wins. Let's see where that goes. I mean, Usyk is a big puncher. Madrimov is a decent puncher as well. I think that's going to be a fun fight. You go down the bill. Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. Yeah. Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. He was meant to fight Rudenko about a fortnight ago in the Copper Box. And I think said a torn bicep or something like that. Now, I'm no genius on torn biceps and how quick an injury can heal, but that, that's a pretty quick turnaround. I'm wondering where they're thinking Rudenko is durable. They don't want to risk an injury, like a worse injury or something like that. So better not go through with that fight and just do Dave Allen. Dave Allen on his YouTube channel was talking about a fight announcement. And I did kind of wonder what that announcement would be. Part of me was thinking it probably is a Johnny Fisher or someone like that. But I was thinking it would be like on a Matchroom show, like in the Copper Box, somewhere like that. I didn't think it would be on a Saudi show. Now, I like Dave Allen's YouTube channel. It gives a very, very good insight. But what has he warranted this crack at Johnny Fisher? I mean, he's won his last 2 fights. They've both been 4-rounders. Both been against guys with losing records. And he's gone to points with both of the guys. One of them has been in Skate Centre in Sheffield. And the other, Skate Centre in Sheffield. He's been in the 250s for that. Yeah, listen, Dave Allen is durable, but I mean, at this point in his career, he really is just turning up for a payday. When he fought Fraser Clark, I mean, that fight was awful. It was absolutely awful. And Dave Allen, the corner, pulled him out after I think 7 rounds. He wasn't even taking a beating or anything like that. So, is the desire there? Part of me is thinking now that he's doing YouTube, that's kind of a how would you describe it? A motivation. Worried about. I was gonna say, not to say Dave Allen cares, but like to put it all there on YouTube, the build up, everything, the preparation. Maybe that will motivate him that little bit more. But yeah, Johnny Fisher, Dave Allen, I'm kind of like meh. And what's frustrating is that you have Moses Itauma on the card as well. Now, I don't see why they couldn't have done Itauma versus Fisher. And just on another note, Johnny Fisher, listen, Johnny Fisher seems like a cool guy. Nice kid, nothing against him. He seems to know that his level is not crazy high. Eddie Hearn has talked about him being a world level prospect. You're putting him in with Dave Allen. Now, Moses Itauma is someone who is a lot more highly rated, in spite of what maybe some... You've seen some Matchroom fans who were like, well, Itauma's not that good. I mean, he beat up an ancient Marius Wack. I mean, who cares about that? Look what Johnny Fisher did to Alan Babbage. Yeah, I'd probably actually... Well, maybe I wouldn't take Alan Babbage over Marius Wack. Or maybe I wouldn't take Marius Wack over Alan Babbage, but it's much of a muchness. If anything, it's more impressive because at least with Marius Wack, he's durable. Alan Babbage's been stopped in the first round before. He's going in there against Dempsey McKean. Now, people, that is a big step up. I mean, Dempsey McKean's last fight was August last year. That was on the Joshua versus Hellenius. Yeah, it was Hellenius. Hellenius undercard. He got stopped in the 12th round against Filip Hrgovic. It was a fight which Hrgovic didn't impress me. He could have closed the show a lot earlier. Dempsey McKean didn't impress me either, to be fair. But that's a big, big step up for Moses Itauma. I mean, to put it in context, I interviewed Itauma January last year in the OVO, head of his pro debut. And he surprised me because he'd only had, now he's had him at a high enough level, but he'd only had 24 amateur fights. I say high enough, I mean, he could have gone on to a higher level and done, and I'd no doubt he would have medalled at the Olympics. But only 24, and in his 11th pro fight to be going in with Dempsey McKean. To put it in context, this is Fisher's 13th fight. He's going in there with Dave Allen. And Johnny Fisher is in his mid-20s now? How old is he? 25. Itauma's not even 20 yet. I mean, that is a world level prospect, Eddie Hearn. That is what you call a world level prospect. Isaac Low IQ versus Lee McGregor. Lee McGregor made a comeback to the ring there this last weekend. He got a stoppage. Doesn't even have how many rounds it was scheduled for on BoxRec. But if you may remember, these two were meant to fight, I think it was last November. I think it was Lee McGregor who pulled out. And I'm not sure, I think Isaac Lowe ended up just fighting just some run-of-the-mill guy. I think they were meant to fight on Channel 5 if I'm not mistaken. That fight should be good. Lee McGregor at one stage in his career looked quite good. He was working with Ben Davison. I don't know, is he still with Ben Davison? But he's working with Ben Davison. I think he got the European champion. He was meant to rematch Cash Farouk. They had a great fight first time around. Unfortunately, Cash Farouk ended up having to retire. That was, I think, in 2021. It's a shame, really, because that rematch would have been off the chain, that rematch, because both guys were tremendously impressive and both guys were looking very good. He had that lackluster draw on one of those old IFL MTK shows, and then I think he lost. Who did he lose to again? He lost to that Eric Robles guy. He just looked really just disinterested. I don't know what was going on with Lee McGregor, but in terms of the two of them, Low IQ and Lee McGregor, I think Lee McGregor has the higher ceiling. He hasn't shown it as of late, but I think he's got the much higher ceiling. I think he's the much better fighter. And then finally, to end it all off, a great fight, flipping brilliant fight. Dennis McCann, Peter McGrail. Peter McGrail looked very good. It's amazing to say he looked very good in his sole loss. Well, he did up until he got knocked out cold. I mean, that's how boxing is. You can look $1 million, but you make a mistake, you get yourself knocked out cold. It counts for nothing. But he did look good in that fight. He didn't look too gun shy in his subsequent fights. He does look pretty good, Peter McGrail. Dennis McCann, McCann, when he turned over, he was only about 18. And, a lot of people were hyping him up, were talking about myself. I thought I was impressed. Then he kind of stagnated a little bit. He had that fight with Belute, which I felt he was quite lucky to get that draw, to be honest with you, because I thought he was losing that fight. But since then, went in there against Brad Strand, did what he needed to do. I know some people would argue that, oh no, yeah, because Brad Strand, I was thinking of someone else there. Brad Strand actually came back to win ways there the other night. Got that win over Brad Strand, rematched Belute, and I think he could have potentially got him out of there, but he didn't. McCann is looking good. He's looking better and better. He is only 23 years old. So, I know, 23 years old, it seems like he's been around forever, Dennis McCann, but he's been around for a good few years now. How old is McGrail? Surely he's similar age. McGrail's 28. So Peter McGrail being the more inexperienced in terms of the pro game. I mean, he's only been pro a couple of years now. McCann's been around since 2019. I like what I'm seeing from McCann. I love that it's again, Matchroom Queensbury. There you go, Eddie Hearn. I'm sure he's bound to pick up a win eventually. He might pick up a win this Saturday, but he's bound to pick up a win eventually. I don't know, will this be the fight? I don't know. But in terms of an undercard, they might announce a couple of prelims, some little throwaway fights. They might stick Tommy Fury out there on a 4-rounder against, TBA, Anthony Yarde's best buddy. But they might do something like that. But in terms of the main card, no complaints. Very good card. Like the fights. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You happy, unhappy, displeased, pleased with this undercard? I personally think it's a good undercard. I do. And I always think these cards are good for the simple reason, right? I always think these cards are good because I've seen some absolutely crap cards go on pay-per-view, go behind the paywall, where there's only one fight of any interest, which is the main event. And now we're getting cards where there is fights of interest. There's legit 50-50 fights. And yet you say, like, that's not that good a card. It's like, what are you talking about, not that good a card? Not every card is going to be like the Day of Reckoning show. I'd say with a card like that, I mean, the millions they would have had to put in. You had Joshua and Wilder and Joseph Parker, Dubois, Miller, all them on the undercard, Hergovich, and the legend that is Mark DeMori. Don't forget about him. You had all those legends in one place, in terms of, I say legends, but you had all those big names in one place on one card. Ain't going to be like, that's the kind of exception rather than the rules, I think, with these Riyadh shows. But yeah, no complaints with this card. Very good. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You happy, unhappy? What fight on this card? Obviously, we're all interested in the main event. So, with the exception of Fury Usyk, what is the fight on this card that you're most looking forward to? I'm quite looking forward to Itauma McCann. That's a big step up. McCann is not great, but I mean, that's a big step for a 19-year-old kid with not a crazy amount of amateur fights in his 11 pro fight. They ain't playing with Itauma. And interesting, I know McCann wouldn't be ranked, I wouldn't say, with the IBF because he's not fought. Now, I could be wrong, I haven't looked at the rankings, but if McCann is ranked maybe lowly by the IBF, because you just don't know what rankings. I mean, someone could not fight for a year and they pop up in the top 15. Wouldn't even rule that out. Could that potentially put him in line to challenge Dubois? Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Peace.